Well, we're in a rush. It appears I have 40 minutes to make my flight. And that's not 40 minutes like to get to the airport. That's 40 minutes it goes in the air. The races were a little bit long, and it's not the end of the world. I already got my boarding pass and Nexus and whatnot. I'm fine. I hope I'm fine. If not, I'll be home later on tonight. So there's Gregory Schoner, one of our clients. He's giving me a ride to the airport. It's even better than Uber. Show up, we've clients everywhere. So we're on our way to the airport, Philadelphia International Airport, heading home. What I would call, I'd stop short of saying mediocre. We get paid. All the horses that raced got money today. Libero Hanover come up with a second straight poor performance, but he got paid. The frustrating part with him is we scoped him after. There wasn't a lot there. So John had told me that a lot of his horses, they're having some issues with some sickness in the barn, but it wasn't in his throat. So unless it's some sort of infection that is running through him, which I don't know, maybe not, then we're going to have to figure out what we're going to do with Libero, because that's a little unacceptable. Again, he got everything his own way, and geez, we weren't even partway through the last turn, and I knew we were in big trouble. He ended up flattening right out. Fifth, wasn't he? Fifth. And didn't race good. And then we come right back in the next race, Stonebridge Simba, in a class he really, well, he did. He won it two starts ago, right? And then he was a little bit flat. He was flat again today, again at a John's barn. So I think John maybe has something running through his barn. Maybe when we had got White Tiger and Spirited Dio home, they ran very high weight counts. Now they started coughing. But they ran high weight counts, which really played havoc with them. When you got a weight count that's really high, way up over 10, almost approaching 12 and 13, you got a real problem. And it took a real 2 weeks, and a heavy dose of antibiotics to get them back on track. So maybe John has something like that running through his barn. We went out with Willpower Fashion. Again, race good, a little flat. Now, the problem I have is going into this race, he didn't really have a race his last time. It was more of a mediocre training trip, and it was frustrating. And I told Tim, I said, I think the problem is that, as a driver, you go up to drive somebody's 2-year-old and you're timid, right? You're tentative. You don't want to put the horse on the run. You don't want to have a poor performance for yourself or somebody who just listed you on your horse. So you drive them easy. Well, Willpower Fashion, you got to drive them like a 6-year-old 10,000 claimer. You got to let them whistle right out of there, keep them right up on a helmet, things that 2-year-olds don't usually do, and this is how Will races. Today I could tell he fizzled out. I didn't know whether it was a long ship from the Meadowlands to Philadelphia in the heat, or whether he just wasn't good. And we scoped him after, and he actually had some infection, had some pus in his throat coming from his gluteal pouches and some other mucus. Not full, where it really played a detrimental role in his overall race, but it really took a little bit off the top, and you could see that at the end of the mile. Although they went a very good mile, one of the fastest divisions, I think. Again, Willpower Fashion was a little light on the end of it, and then afterwards, a little kind of lethargic afterwards, hanging his head. He just wasn't himself. So not a great day for Willpower Fashion, but he was third. And then I was second with one of John Boutonchain's. He had a horse that actually raced good. He had another horse that was second today, so maybe it is just ours. I was second with one of his horses, and then obviously I was really not nervous, but concerned when driving Sebastian Yu after the performance he put on last week. Then after I warmed him up, I was very optimistic. He was quiet, attentive, seemed to behave himself. Coming out of the gate, I was going to get away second or third, then the 6 made a break. I let Timmy go, but I stayed in the 2-wide path and just continued on to the front. Was very quiet with him. 29-1, really stole a half in a minute and a fifth. The fact that I could back him up, at the time I was ecstatic. I said he's going to win in 57-4 under wraps, drawing away. Instead, I cut him loose halfway down the backstretch, and he fizzled out down the lane and was a poor fourth. Tim is just scoping him now, but I'm almost certain there's going to be some stuff in there. This is the shitty part, is when you have to go from the Meadows to Philadelphia. That's how long?
300 miles.
300 miles. So that would take probably 6 hours, 7 hours in a truck and trailer, probably, wouldn't
it? At least 5.
In a car?
Yeah, you can make it in a car in 5.
So in a car in 5. So trucking horses down the road, I'd say minimum 6. So it's a long ship in 31 degrees Celsius weather. For 31 degrees Celsius is what? At the times 60s, 90 degrees?
50 some. Yeah, pretty close to high 80s.
Close to high 80s, 90s for you Americans and whatnot out there who refuse to switch to Celsius. So, the metric system. Yeah, I mean, a little underwhelming. Underwhelming, I think, is the word of the day. Everybody was underwhelming. But we got paid. We had a third with Willpower Fashion, a fourth with Sebastian Yu, a third with Simba, and a fifth with Libero Hanover. All minor spoils, but nonetheless, if they had raced their heart out and got beaten that fashion, you'd be like, it's going to be a tough rest of the summer. Nobody felt good today. They all felt, you know what they all felt like? They were all drunk last night. They all felt like they're on a bender. So they'll bounce back. Next week, they're back at the Meadows, home turf for Tim Twaddle and for the stable. So I'm expecting a much better result from them. Terminal F. For those of you out there that think that it was just Aaron Merriman and that's why the horse was better, he can drive him next week too if you want. It's Gold Cup Day. I do have a ticket from Pittsburgh to PEI, but I don't know if I'll utilize that ticket. So they'll bounce back. Obviously, they have a long ship home. I said to Tim, maybe we should get them a little anti-inflammatory, some Banamine to ship home with. Make sure we start running some fluids and get Willpower Fashion and the other horses on some antibiotics. For John, figure out what the hell is wrong with Libero Hanover and commence fixing it immediately. So we're at the airport now. I don't know if I can make my flight. We're going to find out here soon. And I'll be off to Ontario at some point today. Anyway, that's Philadelphia. I got there late today. Only got there with 10 minutes for the post parade. I'm leaving with 10 minutes for the airline. Can't cut it any shorter than I did today. Hopefully, I'm home by 8 o'clock in Ontario. Talk to you guys soon. Decent day in Philadelphia. Tonight we have Cruising in Style in Yonkers. Tomorrow, Tiamo Hanover, a couple of fillies at Mohawk. Saturday, I'm in Ohio with West 52nd and Yes, and then off to PEI for me for Sunday. Talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye, Greg.